I get it. When you're scrolling through a sea of gaming PCs, the hype can feel overwhelming. You see a sleek tower with a flashy RTX 4060, a 20-core processor promise and a 1TB SSD line, and you start picturing yourself in a high-speed battlefield or rendering a 4K video. Then a friend mentions they bought a similar spec box last year, only to find that the fans were louder than a sports car and the upgrade path was a maze. That hesitation is real, and it's what drove me to dig a little deeper before hitting add to cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the everyday scenario you'll actually live with. The Acer Nitro 50 N50 UR16 is marketed as a ready-to-play desktop, and for most casual gamers that label holds true. Plug it in, install Windows, and you'll be gaming on titles like Valorant or Fortnite at 1080p without tweaking settings. The RTX 4060 paired with 16GB of DDR5 RAM means the frame rates stay comfortably above 60 frames per second on medium-high settings. If your routine includes a few evenings of streaming Elden Ring or diving into Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p, the machine will handle those sessions without stutter. In short, for the plug-and-play crowd, the box delivers the promise on paper. Now, the real value comes from the way the components are balanced. The 14700F has 20 cores and can boost up to 5.4 GHz, which sounds like overkill for pure gaming, but it shines when you start multitasking. Imagine you're running a Discord voice channel, recording a gameplay clip, and having a web browser open with tabs full of tutorials all at once. The extra cores keep the CPU from becoming a bottleneck, and you'll notice smoother performance compared to a 6-core counterpart. That's a practical advantage that shows up not in the spec sheet but in real daily use. But there are trade-offs that matter once the box is out of the showroom. The Nitro 50's design is compact, which means the airflow is managed by a single rear exhaust fan and a front intake. In a warm summer apartment, the system can climb into the mid-40°C range after a couple of hours of intensive gaming. That isn't catastrophic, but it does translate into a louder fan curve, especially when the GPU is pushed hard in a title like Starfield. If you're sensitive to noise or you have an open office layout, you might find the acoustic profile more intrusive than you'd like. In that case, budget-friendly aftermarket coolers exist, but they add to the overall cost. Another point where the Nitro deviates from the premium label is storage expandability. The 1TB PCIe Gen4 SSD is fast, but there's only a single M.2 slot. If you ever need a secondary drive for massive game libraries or large video projects, you'll have to drop a SATA SSD into the 2.5-inch bay, which uses a different power connector and limits future upgrades. Users who enjoy swapping in multiple NVMe drives for separate OS or scratch partitions will feel a little cramped. It's a design decision that benefits the out-of-the-box simplicity but restricts the enthusiast who plans for future expansion. Who should buy this machine? If you're a gamer who values a clean desktop environment, doesn't want to spend time assembling parts, and wants a solid performance baseline for modern titles at 1080p 1440p, this is a strong candidate. It's also a decent choice for creators who need a decent CPU for light video editing or streaming without investing in a workstation. The Wi-Fi 6E-AX211 ensures robust wireless connectivity, which is a nice bonus if you're not keen on running Ethernet cables across the house. Who should skip it? If you're a competitive esports player chasing ultra-high frame rates above 240 frames per second, or if you plan to push 4K gaming with ultra settings, the RTX 4060 will start to show its limits. In that scenario, a higher-tier GPU like an RTX 4070 or even a desktop-class RTX 4080 would provide the headroom you need. Likewise, if you're an enthusiast who wants to tinker with water cooling, multiple storage drives, or plan a future GPU upgrade beyond the RTX 4060, you'll quickly run into the case's thermal constraints and the single M.2 slot. For those users, a more modular tower with better airflow and expandability would be a smarter investment. Let's walk through a typical weekend gaming session to illustrate the strengths and weaknesses. You fire up Apex Legends at 1440p, and the game runs smoothly at 100 frames per second, dipping only during intense moments when the GPU spikes. The system's temperature hovers around 42°C, and the fan is audible but not obnoxious. You switch over to Resident Evil 4 Remake at ultra settings, and the frame rate drops to a comfortable 60 frames per second. At this point, the fan ramps up, and you notice a faint whine from the GPU's cooler. It's not a deal-breaker, but you'll likely need to open a window or turn on a room fan to keep the noise at bay. You then launch a 30-minute streaming session on Twitch, with your webcam and microphone active, while keeping a music playlist running in.